Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to look at the McFarlane DC Multiverse Rebirth Deathstroke. I ordered this figure from the McFarlane toy store, found out people were getting theirs, so I placed my pre-order, and it's finally here today. This is McFarlane's second Deathstroke figure. They made one for the video game Arkham Origins, and that was a great figure, but this one looks to pass that one up in almost every way possible. So let's go and take a look at the packaging. As you can see at the top, 22 points of articulation, McFarlane Toys, age 12 plus, DC Multiverse Deathstroke. Here he is in the package. He's got a knife, a sword, display stand, and a collector's card. What's missing? A gun, a pistol, a rifle. Warner Brothers has a no gun mandate. Any officially licensed DC figures cannot come with guns in any way, shape, or form. And that's why McFarlane has that munitions pack just for characters like Deathstroke. Perfect for him. One side of the package, Deathstroke from DC's Rebirth. Other side, Symbiosis Deathstroke. At the bottom, got a bunch of credits, and there is a barcode, in case it helps anybody. And on the back side, here's Deathstroke from the comics. So no further ado, let's open him up. And I did get two of these figures, one of which to open and enjoy, and the other one to keep unopened in my complete Batman-related unopened action figure collection. Alright, now that we got this figure out of the package, here he is with all his accessories laid out. He does come with a knife, a sword, a display stand, and a collector's card. And like I said before, one thing that's notably missing are some guns, a pistol, a rifle, hell, even Deathstroke's signature staff. I'm used to my Deathstroke figures being geared out with all the bells and whistles, a bunch of weapons. But that's what McFarlane offers, the munitions pack. In this video, we're going to take a look at the figure, his accessories, height and articulation, and we'll check out some guns for the McFarlane munitions pack that'll work with this guy. This is Deathstroke, sometimes known as the Terminator. His real name is Slade Wilson. I believe he was a product of a military experiment. He has a remarkable healing factor. So let's take a look at him. As you can see, he's in his Rebirth costume. Definitely gives me a Two-Face vibe. He's still got that signature blue and orange, but there's a little bit of white, and the color's not quite the same as usual, but at least it sort of resembles his iconic look. As far as his eyes go, this one's white, this one is completely blank. The mask covers up because he's missing that eye. He's got some lines going down the top of his head. He's got his little bandana type thing. Small, movable. This is where he's going to stock his sword, and it doesn't look that good. The traditional sheath would have been better. Seems like they kind of cheaped out here, but that's okay. He's got a different texture on different parts of the suit. You can see it looks like sort of scales here, chainmail, double jointed elbows, double jointed knees, and those are needed for a figure like him. He's got the sheath for his knife, a place that probably should hold a holster for a pistol here. Utility belt looks pretty good. I mean, the figure as a whole looks nice. I do prefer the traditional Deathstroke costume, but this isn't far off, and is a normal, modern, comic-accurate Deathstroke. I did want to mention, in addition to his impressive healing factor, he does have superhuman strength and mental capabilities. He's a metahuman, but not made through the traditional sense. Just a failed military experiment. And just a closer look at his head and face sculpt. It looks pretty good. I personally am not a big fan of the lines on the top. They're probably accurate to the source material though. Now let's check out his accessories, and let's start off with the boring stuff. Here's his display stand, typical McFarlane stand, black perfect circle, says DC on the bottom. It's got one peg for the peg hole on his feet, very thin, very basic. Here's his collector's card. As you can see, it's an image of Deathstroke from the Rebirth comics. I do like when they use pictures of the source material versus simply showing us the action figure again on the card. Deathstroke from DC's Rebirth. On the back side, there is a description. If you want to read that, go ahead and pause now. Here's his knife. It's small, it's basic, it's a knife. Blade looks pretty good. The handle has some wrap on it. Not bad, but it is simply a knife. Here's Deathstroke holding his knife. And here's Deathstroke holstering his knife. It does stow away into the sheath across his ankle. Here's Deathstroke's sword. It's his signature sword. You can always tell because the handle has a very distinct look to it. The blade itself, it looks fine. A little bit of detail going down here. Here are all the Deathstroke swords I have with that signature type look to them. They all have a similar handle. Here he is, holding his sword. He can hold it with one hand, and I'd say he can't really hold it with two. His arms will go the right place, but the handle's just not long enough. He only gets to hold a tiny little piece there. So it's a one-handed sword. And here he is, holstering his sword. I mean, gets the job done. He doesn't have a sheath back there, but the trade-off is it comes out fairly easily. Here are several guns from the McFarlane munitions pack that I thought might work for Deathstroke. I do want to point out, on the actual Deathstroke figure, its right hand, it looks like it's meant to hold the sword. His left hand has the actual trigger finger on it. Here he is, holding an assault rifle. Then, holding another type of rifle. Here's Deathstroke, holding a couple of submachine guns. It should be noted, they fit into the hand without the trigger finger just as well as the trigger finger hand, and with a couple of smaller submachine guns. And here, with a couple of pistols in his hands. These guns are all from the McFarlane munitions pack, so there are plenty of options for Deathstroke, as well as other heroes or villains. I personally think he looks really cool like this, with a sword in one hand and a pistol in the other. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at both the figure and his accessories, now let's check out his height. From bottom to the top of his head, he's standing at about 7.25 inches tall, which can translate to about 18.5 centimeters. Now let's check out his articulation. Starting with his head here, of course, it can rotate from side to side. He can look up about that far, down about that far. Very impressive range of up and down motion with his head. Can tilt his head from one side to the other, giving him good amount of personality. Shoulders on a ball joint, goes out a little bit more than 90 degrees, up, down, around, all that good stuff. He does have that butterfly joint between his shoulder and chest area, increasing the range of motion and covering up that gap. Bicep cut below that, double jointed elbows below that. His wrists, and they do use the old ball joints, but they're sunken into the hand very nicely, not noticeable. Rotate, and they're going to be hinged as well. Ball joint his torso, rotate around, forward and back. Another ball joint his waist, rotate around, forward and back, giving him pretty wide range of motion in his torso area. Get more out of the waist than the torso on him. Legs, almost as a splits. Not a ball joint, but a similar type concept. Rotation is non-existent. They go forward about that far. Back, not much. Double jointed knees. Then his ankle here, and that is done in the new style. A lot more seamless than the ugly ball joints. Rotate, forward and back. Tilt, rock, and to articulation. Here's Deathstroke on a Gotham City roof. He's sniping his target. Say what you want about Deathstroke, he's just a mercenary that'll kill for the highest bidder. Meanwhile, out of Gotham City, back at his dojo, Deathstroke continues to train, perfect his body for the next kill. You can see the duffel bag full of money next to him. That was his reward for his Gotham City kill. Batman drops in, tells Slade, "You shouldn't have come to my city. I told you last time, never again." Deathstroke pulls out his sword and gun. Batman and Deathstroke get ready for the fight of their lives. Batman has Damian Wayne Robin take the duffel bag full of money. No matter who wins the fight between Batman and Deathstroke, Deathstroke is going to lose. Now let's check him out, next to some other action figures. Starting off with some other Deathstroke figures. Here he is, next next to the only other Deathstroke figure McFarlane has made. This Deathstroke is from the video game Arkham Origins. Now, which figure is better, you ask? Well, I personally prefer the suit from the Arkham Origins Deathstroke, a little bit closer to his traditional comic outfit, a little bit bigger and bulkier. His articulation is a little bit weaker, as this figure is at least 2 years old. When McFarlane was in their infancy of the DC license, they have made a ton of improvements on the sculpt and articulation since then. Personally, I'm probably going to say the Arkham Origins Deathstroke is my preferred version of the two. He just looks really good. He reminds me of the DC cinematic version of Deathstroke, the video game version, similar to the comic version. The suit has a lot of texturing, the battle damage, it's all very well done. Now I'm going to say this Rebirth Deathstroke is probably a better action figure, but I personally prefer the Arkham Origins version. Hopefully one day they'll give us a traditional, iconic, classic Deathstroke. And of course, as McFarlane loves to do, that Arkham Origins Deathstroke got a variant. This is the all-gold Platinum Chase variant, and these are all three of McFarlane's Deathstroke figures. Here he is, next to a DC Direct, DC Essentials Rebirth Deathstroke. They're based off the exact same look. Notice they both have the white on the arm, a little part of the glove sticking out. They have the same holster on the ankle. They should have the same holster for the pistol on their hip, but of course, he doesn't have that. Which figure do you guys think looks better? I'm going to have to give it up for the McFarlane figure, although I am very fond of this DC Essentials Deathstroke. And here he is, next to all of my DC Direct and DC Collectibles Deathstroke figures. Then, next to a Mix Max, third-party unauthorized Deathstroke. And here he is, next to a couple of Mezco 112 Collective Deathstroke figures. Then, here he is, staying next to all of my Mattel Deathstroke figures. And here he is, next to an amazing Yamaguchi Deathstroke, and I am not very fond of that figure. Then, with a custom Slade Wilson I made, took one of the unmasked Slade Wilson heads and popped it into a large suited wrestler body. Big and bulky, like Slade Wilson, in a business suit when he's out of the Deathstroke costume. And here he is, next to a DC Direct Ravager. Ravager is Deathstroke's daughter. And now, here's my entire collection of Deathstroke figures. Didn't realize just how many figures they've made at this point, and I hope they give us some more. Teen Titans, cartoon, live action Titans, comic classic, comic New 52, comic Rebirth, even the new Deathstroke Incorporated. There are just so many possibilities for Deathstroke figures. Now let's check them out, next to some other McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Here are all of the Deathstroke figures McFarlane's made in their DC Multiverse line. It's really just the Arkham Origins and the Rebirth version. Here's the Rebirth Deathstroke, next to the Rebirth Batman. They're both on the Rebirth, but you can see how much smaller that Batman is than Deathstroke. Not very consistent on their scaling here. Deathstroke started out as pretty much a Teen Titans villain, but I'd say nowadays, he's definitely considered a Batman villain. And here's Deathstroke, next to several more Batman figures. These are all based off the comics, just like the Rebirth Deathstroke. Then, next to several more Batman figures. These are also all based off the comics. And here he is, next to some more Batman figures. These are from different various forms of media. And like I said before, Deathstroke mostly started off as a Teen Titans villain, usually when the team is led by Nightwing. I almost consider him to be a Nightwing opponent. Here he is, next to all the different McFarlane DC Multiverse Nightwing figures. Now let's check him out, next to some other recently released McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Here he is, next to the two newest Mega figures, Bane and Necron. And here he is, next to the Speeding Bullets Batman and Dark Knight's Metal Batrocidus. Then, next to the Walmart exclusive Gold Label Azrael Batman armor and Parallax Hal Jordan. And here he is, next to the Blue Beetle and Booster Gold 2-pack. Then, next to the Court of Owls Talon and the Infinite Frontier Scarecrow. And here he is, next to the Future State Superman and the New 52 Static. Then, with the McFarlane Toy Store exclusive Gold Label paint variants of the Arkham Knight Scarecrow and Red Hood. And now, next to the first wave of Page Punchers, still trying to track down the black and white version of Black Adam. Here's Deathstroke, next to the Black Adam movie wave. And here he is, next to the Blackest Night wave, collective build Atrocitus. Here he is, next to Martian Manhunter, both Classic and Rebirth. And here, next to the Target exclusive Crime Syndicate, Ultraman, Superwoman, and Owlman. Then, with all three versions of Lex Luthor in his power suit, here's Deathstroke, next to both versions of the Future State Dark Detective Batman. And here, next to Duke Thomas from Tales of the Dark Multiverse, and the Batman Who Laughs dressed as Batman. And finally, here he is, next to both versions of the Zernar Batman, and all three variations of the Infinite Frontier Robin. Now let's check him out, next to some action figures from different various companies, to see how he fits in both scale and style-wise, in case you know what designs you can mix him with. Since he's a McFarlane figure, they're typically the 7-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the large action figure lines I collect, and work my way smaller. But first, let's check him out with some of his McFarlane Toys brothers. In front of you are 5 different action figure lines, all from McFarlane Toys, all 7-inch scale. Then, with some more McFarlane Toys, these are from different various video game properties. And now, here he is with some Jack-specific wrestling figures. And here he is, next to some DST or Diamond Select toys. Then, next to some DC Direct and DC Collectibles figures. And here he is, standing next to some NECA figures. Then, with some Mattel wrestling figures. And now, next to some Jazzwares AEW wrestlers. And here he is, next to some Mezco 1/12 collective figures. Then, with some Mattel DC Universe Classics and Multiverse figures. And here he is, with some Mafex figures. Then, with some Hasbro Marvel Legends. And here he is, next to some SH Figure Arts action figures. And finally, here he is, next to some Jazzwares Fortnite figures. So overall, it's a very nice Deathstroke figure. He's in his modern Rebirth outfit. A very slim figure with very nice articulation. My only real complaints about this guy is wrist articulation could be a little bit better. It's rather limited. Beyond that, I'm pretty pleased with everything. I do kind of wish he had 2 trigger finger hands, but I totally understand why he doesn't come with those. I must say, I personally prefer the McFarlane Arkham Origins Deathstroke. Call me crazy if you'd like, but I really like that look for Deathstroke. It reminds me of the DC Cinematic Universe, and he's really cool in both the video games he's in. Just a personal preference, I would say this Rebirth one is a better action figure overall. His accessories, they're nice, but he's definitely missing some guns. Not McFarlane's fault. His articulation is everything you'd expect from a McFarlane DC Multiverse figure. Sculpt and paint job are excellent, no issues there. Maybe the slightest blemish on his belt. If I were to rate this guy, I'm going to give him a solid 7.5 out of 10. Enjoying him every bit as much as I expected to. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say with the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will talk to you guys real soon.